Welcome back to the News Hub here at WSJ Live. The new BMW i3 electric car has an expensive battery and a costly fiber body, but executives still think they'll make money on it. Here to explain how is Wall Street Journal Global Autos editor Joe White. Joe, thank you very much for being there. I always love these electric car stories, somewhat controversial. You were at the opening of the new BMW factory that will make the company's new fleet of electric cars. Tell us about this factory. What is the significance of it?
Well, I got to look at it before today. But you know, it really what they're trying to do at BMW is put into practice a theory about reinventing the way cars are put together that's been knocking around in the industry for some years. And basically the idea is instead of using steel and aluminum and metals like that, you build a car out of carbon fiber in the underbody and plastic exterior, and you just slash the costs of the equipment and the floor space that you need to put this together. I mean, some of our viewers may remember, I think it's one of this Tom Cruise movie where the car was sort of put together by a few robots in a very small building, and then they shot out in it. That's not what they're doing at BMW, but that's the direction they're going in. It's just a different approach to building cars that they hope will make it cheaper and offset the cost of these exotic materials that they're putting into these vehicles.
Now, one of the things, Joe, when I was a kid, growing up in the UK, which is rather damp, you may have heard that, is that the cars would rust and eventually you'd need to get a new one because there wouldn't be so much of the car left because it was all rusted away. If it's carbon fiber, it's not going to rust. If it's plastic, it's not going to rust. Do these things just last forever? Is that going to be a problem, or will that just be a problem a few years down the road?
Well, I think certainly, let's put it this way, they don't have to spend money on a rust-proofing system in the factory. They probably won't last forever. I mean, plastic breaks, plastic fades. I think repairing carbon fiber bodies if they're in a collision will probably be a challenge for people in the body shop repair industry who are used to dealing with steel. I mean, these are all things that will have to play out over time. But certainly we're talking about a car that will have just a different footprint in the world than a 2.5 ton steel car. I mean, these are cars that are meant to be lighter in large part because they've got to carry around a heavy battery. I mean, in a way, all of this technology, the carbon fiber, all the rest of it is aimed at compensating for the fact that the lithium-ion battery in the floor of this car is still way too heavy and way too expensive to be fully competitive.
And how will all of this keep the costs low, right? How will this manufacturing technique keep costs down? Because one of the things you want with an electric car is you want low cost.
Well, yes. So I think a lot of what they're doing here is they're reducing the investment. I mean, here's an example that is pretty easy for me to grasp. Normally, the paint system, or what they call the paint shop in a car factory, costs something like $250 million. And that's with all the environmental gear and all the rest around it. There's a lot of capital involved there. BMW tells me that the paint shop for the i3 and the i8, the carbon fiber cars we're talking about, costs about $50 million, or about a fifth. It's smaller. It's not as complicated. They don't use water, so they don't have to treat the water going out, which is a significant expense. So they've cut by $200 million roughly the investment required just to paint these vehicles. Now, throughout the factory, they argued, as I walked around with one of their executives, Daniel Schaefer, who designed this, that just about at every point you could say, well, you know, the robots are less expensive because they don't have to carry as much weight compared to a steel car. The body shop, or the shop where they make the parts, is smaller and has fewer presses and fewer expensive dies for making the parts. Now, I want to be clear here. I can't tell you for sure that these cuts in the investment cost have offset the additional costs of the carbon fiber. Probably not. but that's the direction they're going to try to make this economical over the life of these cars.
And the pictures we were just looking at now do suggest a very clean factory. I've been in a few car factories in my life, and that one does look splendid. Thank you very much, Joe White of the Wall Street Journal. We appreciate your time, sir.